It's my great pleasure to welcome for the second dialogue session Claudia Flores-Saviaga and Mariam Barandia. They will talk to each other and to you about the question, what can peace builders and technologists learn from each other about political and social cultural transformation? And we talked before and we said we want to give a special focus to volunteering, which is also one topic that is quite present in all of what we do. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Claudia. Is a researcher at West Virginia University, where she works at the HCI Crowdsourcing Lab, and she's also a research collaborator at National Autonomous University of Mexico. And she collaborates in actually a postgraduate student networks in the area of ICT 4D. Then we have Mariam with us, who came to us from the Philippines, I think, directly. She has been the executive director of, and now you have to give me a minute to rehearse it again, Kapamagogopa. I hope I pronounced that right. Since 2004. She is a licensed civil engineer and was a chief accountant management specialist at the Land Bank of the Philippines. So both of them have a very interesting journey, and I invite first Claudia to share with us her presentation.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to be talking about a little bit about what I do at West Virginia University in the terms of how we are trying to make people volunteer on their spare time online. And I'm also, I didn't mention, but I am an IT advisor for the local government in Mexico. And we are trying also to do some projects to make people volunteer in rural communities. So I'm going to be talking about all of those projects so we can start later the dialogue based on that. So what we starting to do research at the lab, we were wondering why is volunteering difficult and why organizing volunteers is difficult. So we wanted to look for information, and we realized that even though that nonprofit organizations really need volunteers in order to reach their goals, to reach their metrics and be on budget, for them it's really hard to recruit them, to train them, and to make them do work because they have high turnover rates. People sometimes they start volunteer for a couple of weeks, months, even years, but they just stop doing it. And we found in the investigation that we did that many of them, they said that they didn't have enough time. I mean, they didn't want to volunteer, but they just couldn't have time in their busy schedules. So we also found that they wanted more flexible ways of do volunteer work. And also sometimes nobody asked them to do volunteer. So we posed a question. We were posing some questions. And on the other hand, we found that right now new technologies like social media makes easier for reach out people with different backgrounds in different regions all over the world. And this has created unique ways to identify users based on what they share on social media. I mean, everybody has public information out there that says who you are, what you like, what you care for. And that's something that all of us can reach out. So this converts them in a viable source of information to know what they care and what they like. So we posed a question and we said, okay, how can we use social media to involve people in volunteering without mattering where they are or if they have just a couple of minutes available in even. So what we did was start working with Wikimedia Foundation in San Francisco. And we start talking with the researchers there at the research department, and we found that Wikimedia Foundation has the project that we all know, that it's Wikipedia. As we know, it's the online encyclopedia that it's consulted every day for millions of people. But they have a particular problem that was that even though the millions of people were consulting Wikipedia, almost nobody edited Wikipedia. So how many of you have edited Wikipedia or added information to Wikipedia? Okay, a lot of them, thank you. Thank you for contributing. So, Dario Calabrelli, who is the head of research at the Wikimedia Foundation, he wanted to explore new ways of making people volunteer in there. So what we did was focus just in one specific type of problem and one specific type of people for search for volunteers. And that is called the Women in Red project. That it's a project inside of Wikipedia that aims to increase the visibility of women in Wikipedia by developing their biographies. So we had that problem. We needed volunteers that cared about women. So it was a very specific type of volunteers. But we also need to find them, right? Where are they? How can we find them? So what we did was to create an automated agent in Twitter and to start to crawl for information from people that care about women and feminism and that type of things. And we started to ask them, okay, if you had the opportunity to create a biography of a noteworthy woman on Wikipedia, who would you add? And what we found was quite interesting because almost 80% of the questions that we posed were answered on topic. So they really started collaborating in the project, even though they didn't know who were. Because we didn't say, okay, we're doing this for the Wikimedia Foundation. We just said, okay, I'm just a regular person in Twitter that wants you to volunteer. So that example, it's a workflow that we follow. We just created bots on social media and start asking people, and they just started to contribute, and we collected information and added to Wikipedia. So it's a simple example, but what we found was that volunteers really were willing to do micro tasks on social media, and we have a really variety of responses. So that was the first example of how can we use social media and bots in innovative ways. And it's really easy and it's practically free, so anybody can use it. But what about offline volunteering? This example that I just shared was with everybody has a smartphone and everybody's connected and everybody has internet access. But what about the other part of the population that does not have this privilege? So I want to start with the quote from William Gates that I really like, that it's the power of knowledge changes lives. And I share this because the other facet of me as a public servant that I've been working with the government for around 6-8 years, in the technology areas in Veracruz, that is in southeast Mexico. I wanted to give you a little background of where I live because that's part of the story and that has a lot to do with the project. So we live in a very strategic position. We live just in the Gulf of Mexico, so we have access to import and export by sea. At the north we have the United States, and at the south we have South America. So we have 8 million people living in there, but around 39% population lives in rural areas. So the strategic position that we have and the poverty that we have, it's like a recipe for disaster, really, because we have a big deal, a big problem with drug dealers, with narco traffic, because we get all from the South America, we try to get all the way to the United States, and because we live just in the sea, I mean next to the sea, they try to export to Europe also. So people living in there really sometimes they have lack of opportunities. They are really poor. It's one of the poorest areas. And the education level is below the national average. So what happens is that this lack of opportunities makes them fall for narco trafficking. They need something to eat. I mean, we can list a lot of reasons, but one of them is that the lack of opportunities in their areas to do something else. So in 2006, the government decided to take action, and we developed a program that is called the Vasconcelos program, and it just won an award in 2008 for the access to education and learning by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what we do is just to take technology to rural areas using all-terrain buses. So, okay. So it just has benefit around 2,800 people in 2,200 communities, and I'm just keeping it short. What's different in here, sorry about that. What's different in here is this not a one-fits-all solution. What we do is work with the communities, with the local government to develop programs specifically for the necessities of each community. So what has been found is that communities really embrace this program and really makes them to access other opportunities. For example, coffee farmers have access to coffee prices and have access to information about how they can increase their way of have a better life. So this way, it's a way of transforming people's lives through education and through technology. And I think it's a good example of how can we use technology for peace building. And I wanted to share just so we can start later.
Great. Thank you very much, Claudia, for that. Moving over to Mariam.
Good morning. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. And that's our greetings in the Philippines. I will be talking on our volunteering program for peace building in the Philippines. If you can see, Kapamagogopa, she had a hard time to pronounce the Kapamagogopa. It's our dialect that is in the southern part of the Philippines, of where I am working. It means volunteerism. And the Philippines, the common language is Bayanihan. It's the same, but Kapamagogopa is in my language. I would like to start. I would like to start with the story of one Muslim woman volunteer that is assigned in a Christian community. She was placed in Cebu City, where Muslims is only 1 to 2%. It's a Catholic region. In that picture, she is doing life-saving for a street woman. Actually, she's a prostitute. And she is giving her life-saving skills in times of disaster, which was actually the Typhoon Haiyan. That woman also, she is very young, 20 years old, when she came to our office to apply as a volunteer, and she came with her parents. Because in our culture, women are not allowed to go out from their home without their companion. And she is very shy. She doesn't talk. And it's her parents actually who made the talk with us that she wants her daughter to volunteer with us. But now look at her. still working with that organization and doing training skills with the volunteers, street children volunteers. So that's how she was changed from a very shy young woman to a confident young one. So there you can see the transformation in her. Kapamagogopa was established in 2004 as the only systematized, institutionalized volunteer center in the Philippines. We are the only one. And if you can see, it was a local NGO that works on peace and development in the southern part of the Philippines. What we do, what we are doing. Actually, before that, I would like to give a background on what is Kapamagogopa. We believe that KI's program provides a local solution to a local problem by contribution to change in the 5-year century conflict in Mindanao, southern Philippines, between Muslim clans, Christians and Muslims, and the indigenous peoples in the area. The issues driving the conflict are actually complex. However, cultural and religious differences are very significant. One consequence has been the stigmatizing the Muslim population as being to blame for the conflict. If you know, whoever knows Philippines, especially Mindanao, they are always in conflict. And in my hometown, where the President Estrada declared the all-out war against the Muslim Islamic Liberation Front, that's my hometown. And ever since, even before I was born, my hometown has been in conflict. We always experience war. KI works to counter the warmonger image to Muslims by sending young Muslim professional volunteers as peace advocates and development workers in both Muslims and Christian communities. This promotes trust and reconciliation and helps bridge the divide that could fuel further conflict in the area. So that's the background why we established Kapamagogopa. So what do we do? We recruit volunteers. We wanted to break the stereotypes that Muslims only as recipients with little or no skills at all to share. And then we mobilizes young Muslim professionals to become peace weavers and volunteers for peace and development. It also enables them to have the chance to break isolation and to work in multicultural environment. And we provide equal opportunities to young men and women to enable them to gain employment, because that's really our problem. In our area, the biases and prejudices is very, very strong that a Muslim professionals cannot easily access to jobs, because once you write in your resume or CV that you are Muslims, then your applications will go directly to the trash. So that's actually what we wanted to achieve. Okay, the process of the program. Actually, for them it's an online, but for us it's totally offline. So we recruit volunteers, we train and places them in different organizations across the country for 1 whole year. In this time, we are using the technology. Not all the time, actually, we use technology. Now, during the recruitment of our volunteers, we use Facebook, texting. We use website. We have our website, and radio and television. Radio in our area is very important. There are certain communities that has no access to internet, that has no access to like cell phones. They can only be reached by radio, even televisions, because most part in our area has no electricity. Even road networks, it's really hard. So it's only the radio. Sometimes we are using the two-way radio. If you are familiar with the ICOM, that's the most useful technology that you are using in those remote areas. I'm forgetting. Okay, so those are actually the focus areas that we are working on. And those pictures are only the examples that, of the works of our volunteers in bridging the divide. So, first picture is working with an international organization. The second one is working with the Christian community. Before, he is like receiving funny jokes, hate speech, but still he hold on. And then later on, he became the manager of that organization and even go to the national office. So that's the change. And then more emotional recovery. And those are examples. So I will not dwell on that because time is running out. And then if you have more questions, maybe then we can have like more talk into more details about that. Thank you.
Thank you both very much for those very You reflected very nicely on how the transition between online and offline work in volunteering, and even if the contexts are very different and basically across each other on the planet, there are some similarities coming out when it comes to the challenges you meet and also what kind of questions there are around volunteering. We have a tiny bit of time to take a couple of questions or reactions from the audience. Or possibly everybody's just very hungry.
First, congratulations. I'm curious on how viral can volunteering get after it starts in a more traditional way and in a more technological and social network way. How does it spread after it started? If you have that type of information already, or if it's much more yet local than it is spreading around the area.
Actually, there's no problem in spreading the works in the area. In fact, we have no problem on, like, because we are already receiving hundreds and hundreds of applications to volunteer with our organizations. And also there are many organizations that wants to receive volunteers coming from us. So we have a mixture of how do we spread our works. It's through technology, the social media, especially Facebook. And we also have, like, we have a website that we publish everything of our works. And we have partners, networks. And if there are some applicants who want to work with their organization, they advise that applicant to come to our organization and apply first, because if they're going to be accepted, then that's good. Another thing also is that the parents themselves are spreading the word. It's like we said that mouth to mouth is really very, very playing an important role in spreading the word. Thank you. Did I answer your question?
Just a quick note about that. And regarding the Wikipedia project, we have found that when we started targeting people that really care about the cause of women, they started to be more more active in sharing what we did with their acquaintances. So that was a really surprise because we didn't thought that even though it was a pilot study, we could have that impact, and it was really encouraging to keep pursuing.
So my question is regarding the volunteers and how you keep them motivated and doing many things. I come from Sudan, and in Sudan, like a lot of organizations assume that all the volunteers know very well the cause, so they just submerge everyone within the tasks and the hideous task of organizations and everything. In one of the organizations I volunteer in, I've noticed one thing that many people, that organizations gives workshops to the volunteers and keep them motivated and updated about the topic itself. And the research and development unit of that organization showed statistics that it's one of the most dynamic volunteering organizations. So I'm just wondering, in Mexico or in the areas you've been working in, how is the volunteering dynamics? Is it like in Sudan, or they do such things for encouraging people to continue?
Can you repeat the question at the end once again?
I was wondering if in the organizations you've been working with, do they dedicate some time to work on the building skills for the volunteers themselves and make them more attached to the cause, or they just get into the tasks and what's the difference?
Actually, the people that goes to rural areas, first, there's a process. First, the local government has to work with the community to find needs in the community. So we can adapt the curriculum to each community, to the necessities. Once that has been identified, we have to work with the staffers or the volunteers that are going to work within the community. They stay long, for around 2 weeks or even months for the first time that they go to work in there. So they have to be trained before that. And they have to know the community and what are they going to help with in there. So it's not, as I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So we have to work by local level into each necessity.
We have actually a long process in selecting a volunteer. From recruitment, we just don't get because we have two types of volunteering. It's the project-based, wherein people can just come in and do a specific task or activity. But we have this regular program, volunteering program, wherein they have to undergo a process. From recruitment, they have to undergo selection process, and then for whoever was selected, then they will undergo a 1-month capability training, skills training, because they have to be prepared for their 1-year volunteering works in the different areas in the Philippines. So we have these modules that has to be undertaken by the volunteers, and then we will place them. In their placement organizations also, they are being given specific skills that is related to their works. So it's a continuous knowledge and skills training for them. So, but at the end of their volunteering works, they are already well equipped. They have already gained experience that they are now confident to look for a regular job, for a good job. So that's how we do it.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Claudia. We are actually moving towards the lunchtime break, but give a warm round of applause again to our two speakers.